Okay, so today I'm going to explore, I want to point out some links between Arizona and South Dakota that I found out about when I moved to South Dakota, and I had met this lady named Lora Hubbel, and she worked as a state representative for many years in South Dakota, and she was running for governor against Kristi Noem. And so she was trying to uncover um, many issues there for a long time. And when I moved out of Minnesota, I moved to an area in South Dakota thinking that I was getting away from a situation in Minnesota, and then things started coming up in South Dakota that I could have never guessed, that there was links there too. But there are, and so I'm going to be talking about that, and I'm going to have her on the program as well. And I also did a video with her on the Daniel Lee channel, and I'll include that in the link. She gets deep into a lot of different things that have happened in South Dakota that you'd never heard about on the news. They just seem to have they seem to have completely suppressed the news regarding anything in that state. It's very bizarre, but there's a lot of pertinent links. And um, so if you remember, there was a story that came out where there was a huge human trafficking ring that was caught in Tucson, Arizona, and it was a camp. And you can Google that, and I can put the link below here, but there was a camp right on the CEMEX plant grounds, and it was a human trafficking plant. So the CEMEX plant there was sold to Arizona by South Dakota. So people, I'm sure, were not aware of that. So that was like some kind of a sale between the senators there and the senators in Arizona. They sold that CEMEX plant to Arizona, where they found all those. It was a human trafficking sex camp that was found in Tucson a few years back. So that was one link. And then when she was running for governor, she started getting a lot of people hearing a lot of stories that people had been telling her, because they were hoping that she would win because she was going to try to get a lot of things cleaned up. And one of the things that's been happening in South Dakota to people is that their land is being sold. For the government somehow sold the mineral rights of their land to China. So the mineral rights of the land has been sold, and some of these people got their property taken from them illegally. So this is the kind of thing that's been happening. And then when Trump talks about intellectual property rights being sold to China, what he's referring to, I believe, is that South Dakota was involved in selling a military patent to China. Apparently, there's School of Mines. Apparently, the School of Mines in South Dakota owns military patents, and apparently the senators in South Dakota, and the senators I'm referring to are John Thune and Mike Rounds. Apparently, they sold military patents to China. So that would be called intellectual property violations, and I believe that's what Trump is referring to when he's talking about the intellectual property violations that China has. So you've heard him talk about that on the news. So I want to explain that part of the link, because I believe that's what he's referring to. And so China, obviously has become a big threat. It has been for a long time. It's just wasn't talked about on the news, the fake news. So, but I wanted to, before I forget, I wanted to thank, there's been people writing into me and sending letters and some donations, and I just wanted to thank people for doing that. I mean, you can't imagine how much I appreciate it. And one lady wrote me a really nice note, and it says, God has raised up a few souls to expose evil, and you are one of them. May He continue to protect you. So thank you, Sheila, or thank you, Selena. okay, for this, because that was a really, really nice note. I appreciate that. So I'm just trying to tell my story because I think it will help people put some pieces together of things that are in the news and things that a lot of people, the links that people might not understand. So I'm just a piece in the whole puzzle here. So the other thing I wanted to mention, I have mentioned in the past about this issue with my sheriff. So a couple videos prior, I had made phone calls. We had been trying to get certain things in our town looked into properly where I live now, where I own a property there in South Dakota. I had been over the period, starting to meet my neighbors, and I had been I had been told about all kinds of different things that happened, crimes that happened that never got properly looked into. And so they have written sworn statements of different things that happened, and the sheriff actually never arrested certain people that needed to be arrested. And so, and this is not an anti-sheriff talk. I'm just talking facts of different things that have happened, and then, but so we wrote up sworn statements. About 10 people wrote up sworn statements of different crimes that have happened, and this is in McPherson County, South Dakota. And we have sent this information in to the Attorney General of the state and the governor. And we haven't received any results, and told them that the sheriff isn't doing anything, and we haven't received any response. You can see my prior videos. We haven't received any response from the state, so we're sending things to DC now about this, and and evidence, and because we've explored all of our channels in this state. But so this is a very dangerous area in my understanding, and I had no idea that there was all these links between South Dakota and Arizona, but apparently there is also a big issue. There was all these links between John Thune and John McCain. So when I met Lora Hubbel, she started explaining those things I already mentioned, and then she said that there's a major issue with John Thune and the links between him and John McCain. Apparently he was good buddies. You can see pictures of him and John McCain and Mike Rounds together, and apparently they were in on a lot of different things. But so this particular state has similar things that Arizona has. And so, but the particular issue that we're having in this particular county is that things are not getting looked into properly. They're not doing their jobs as sheriffs and detectives. And there's a good sheriff, and then there's some bad sheriffs and police. So right in my town, there was a man killed in a house fire a couple of years ago, and it was I was there. I was there. This happened just a few doors down from me. It was this. This is the article right here. Man dies in a Long Lake. Man ends up dead in house fire in Long Lake, South Dakota. Okay, you can look it up, and I'll provide a link. Okay, and so this is what the article says. Long Lake, South Dakota. A house fire claimed the life of a man near the edge of South Dakota. 64-year-old Jimmy Cole was killed during a fire in his home in Long Lake early Sunday morning. This was December 2nd, 2017 that this came out. So, and this was right in my area, right in my town. Okay, so McPherson County Sheriff Dave Ackerman says a passerby saw smoke and flames and called for help. Since Long Lake doesn't have its own water supply, he says it took a while to get the fire under control. Okay, the cause of the fire is still under investigation by the South Dakota Fire Marshal Department of Criminal Investigation. Okay, so here we are a couple years later, and they still don't know what happened. They still don't know what happened. This is the most crazy situation I have ever seen. Okay, so this happened about 3 doors down from me, and it took them, I think, 8 hours to get the fire out. Normally when when there's a fire, I would think that the priority would be to get the body out first. They didn't seem to try to get the body out. I was there. I was standing there almost the whole time because Jimmy was a friend of mine. He helped me with things at my house all the time. He was he was like a handyman guy, and he was very capable of getting out of the house. He was still, very capable for 64. So none of this makes any sense to us. And so my neighbors and I really loved Jimmy, and so we were, obviously very concerned. We um, we had a lot of questions here. It took them a really, really long time to get the fire out. So apparently they didn't have enough water. I mean, you know, I've never seen anybody take so long to get a fire out. Okay, and I didn't understand why they didn't go after trying to get the body. They seemed to just want to get the fire out, and there was no like urgency of trying to get the body out. And I said, well, you know, just try to at least get the body out. But anyway, so yeah, then I asked the sheriff to have the state fire marshal come over to me and talk to me about what he thinks caused the fire. So he comes over to my house and he says, well, I don't see any kind of foul play here. And I said, excuse me, what does that mean? What does that mean that you don't see any foul play? I said, what caused the fire? I mean, how did this happen? Isn't it your job to investigate what you think caused the fire? And he said, well, I just don't see any foul play here. And he wouldn't expand on anything. He just wanted to blow me off. And he talked to me for like 2 minutes and walked away. So they have been trying to say that the fire started downstairs. Then they tried to say that that it was his wood burning furnace, and he didn't use the wood burning furnace. That was just extra. He had an oil burning furnace downstairs. And we looked downstairs, and there was no fire in the basement. It was all upstairs. When I got there, there was a fire. It seemed to be on two different sides of the house. It seemed to be on the side of the door, like where he would have been able to run out, and on the side of where he lived, where he would be sleeping. So it seemed to me like there was two fires in two different areas of the house. And so to me, it looked very much like it was a purposeful fire, because I've never seen a fire in two different areas of the house. Normally, if there's a fire that starts, it's just in one area of the house, and they figure out. So still to this day, they have never figured out what started this fire. And we did our own investigation, and we saw that the window on the bathroom window side of the where his bathroom was on the side, which is where he was found, right outside the bathroom. It was broken in. There was glass inside the tub, and like the shower curtain was like in there with the glass, and the water was still turned to the on position. It wasn't running anymore because everything had been burned in the house. But he was found right outside of the bathroom naked, and so that is where they found him. So to me, it's really clear that he was attacked through the bathroom window. There was glass. It wasn't glass outfloated like outside. It was glass inside the bathroom, with water still in the tub and the shower curtain. Okay, so it's pretty clear to me after seeing that evidence that he was attacked. So there's been no investigation into, who might have attacked him. I mean, this isn't an accidental death. To us, this is an obvious murder. Okay, so this is one issue I have had with Sheriff Dave Ackerman, where I don't feel he did his job properly, and the state fire marshal. Okay, so these are the issues that we're having in South Dakota, and I'm not talking about anything anti-cop here. I'm talking about people not doing proper investigations into murders and things that are very serious. Where a man lost his life and his whole house was burned up. I mean, those are, if someone committed this crime, that's a major felony. Obviously, that's murder and arson. Okay, so that's major felonies here. So, and you're just gonna not investigate. You know, this was obviously very concerning to us in this county, and still to this day we don't know. It hasn't been a and the other thing they did is that they grabbed the body really quickly, and his brother Larry Kolb was at the finally contacted, and I asked Larry, I said, did you tell them to grab the body? And he said, no, I haven't been contacted and told anything. I didn't know they grabbed the body. And I said, yeah, they grabbed the body already. The coroner grabbed the body already. What are they doing with it? And he said, I don't know. I want an autopsy. So they were trying to grab the body and cremate the body without the family's permission. Okay, so that's another huge red flag. So still to this day, the body has never been released to the family so they can properly have a funeral for this man. Okay, so I mean, have you ever heard of anything so crazy? This happened in McPherson County, South Dakota. Okay, the body of Jimmy Kolb has still never been released to the family so they could have a proper funeral. And no, they still don't know what happened to Jimmy Kolb. So I'm sorry, is that okay for people to just leave things hanging and there's no investigation? So this is very concerning to us, the things that are happening. And then about 20 minutes down the road, like like a year and a half after that incident, there was another bizarre incident. There was a fatal car accident in Leola, South Dakota, which is about 20 minutes um, from where I live, and this is all right outside of Aberdeen, South Dakota. Okay, so not a big town. I mean, I'm from a big town. I'm from Minneapolis, but so I was one of the witnesses at this car accident. Okay, and this it's right here. 2 children died in a crash in Leola, South Dakota. Okay, and so 2 children. This was a Sunday afternoon. Okay, I was coming back from Aberdeen, and I was one of the witnesses that came upon this crash, and it was one of the worst things I've ever seen. So the woman had been thrown out the back, and she was laying on the ground fighting for her life. She could barely breathe, and her 2 kids inside her car had no pulse. They, I think, they were fighting for their life, and and the sheriff, Dave Ackerman, took about 40 minutes to get there. Okay, this woman and her daughter were sitting there fighting for their lives while we kept calling 911. There were several of us there, witnesses, and this was a clear, another case of total negligence on the sheriff's part. Okay, they took him over 30 minutes to get there, and this woman is sitting there fighting for her life, and they're we don't know who caused the accident. I don't believe it was her. I believe it was the other car, but we don't know for sure because I didn't see that part of it. But I just know that they took way too long to get there, and so she had to be airlifted, and I guess she's okay, she's recovering, but her little daughter had like she has like a neck injury and a broken arm, and they both had major internal injuries. This was a major car accident. So this happened, and uh, we don't understand why this sheriff took so long to get there. There was many witnesses besides me of this car accident. So, and then the other issue that I had in that county is that I've talked about the issue a couple of videos ago where I was driving back from Fargo, and there was a huge snowdrift that the road wasn't plowed. I've never been driving on a road where the road wasn't plowed, and all of a sudden, you're in the middle of like a highway type thing, and all of a sudden you run into a big snowdrift. I've never had that happen. So this is what happened, and so for those people who don't believe me, that part of the story, because I mean I know a lot of this sounds crazy, but I have proof of documented of why this is so concerning, of different things that are happening in these areas, and so here's the police report. This was okay. So this was I went flying into a snowdrift. And it was, here's right on the police report, I'll put this up here so people can see it. The snowdrift was 2 to 4 feet deep and about 40 yards long. Okay, so here's the police report. Deb was traveling southbound on McIntosh County Road, number 23. She was about 2 or 3 miles south of Lear. Visibility was poor. She seemed to have run into a snowdrift that went across the county road and was 2 to 4 feet deep and about 40 yards long. There was another vehicle that slid into the ditch earlier that day, and I had talked about there was a guy that had apparently tried to walk home, and he ended up with hypothermia. Okay, so he's talking about the other vehicle. Okay, there was damage to the front bumper, which caused one of the driving belts to fall off in the engine compartment. So I was sitting there, my belt had broken, and because my front end was damaged, I literally went flying about 3 feet in the air, and my front end came down. Okay, so this is not okay. And so if it wasn't for some people that a local farmer happened to be passing by in his tractor. So a local farmer, thank you so much. Thank you for the people that helped me. He was passing by in his tractor, and he picked me up and drove me in his tractor to Wishook. So thank you for the people that helped me, and I spoke with the county road crew and then picked up Deb at the hotel. We went out, and then we had to go out and get my car out of there. So that we had the county road people, and thank you for everybody that helped me with this situation here. The county road people got involved in. I said, I can't leave my car there. This road needs to be blocked off. Other people could come by and hit my car. So we had to get my car out of there. This was a really bizarre situation. They were able to pull her vehicle straight back and out. I followed Deb back to Wishook Inn. This police officer was extremely nice and very helpful. His name was Jonathan Katz. Okay, and thank you, Jonathan. It's Jonathan, Kaatz. So thank you for the good police. Okay, he made sure that I got safe and got my car out safely. Okay, so this was March 4th at 12:10. Okay, and this was Jonathan. Yeah, he was out of McIntosh County, which was right across the border in McIntosh, North Dakota. Okay, so this is the police report. Okay, and people can see this. This is the call for service. In the report. Call for service. This is his this is him, John Katz. Okay, so I'm not making any of this up. These stories sound crazy, but the world is crazy right now, you know, and it just is. This happened to me, and so what he found out is that somehow the plowing was called off that day, and he's never seen that happen before. He said normally if they're going to call off plowing, they would mark off the roads and say, travel advisory, you can't, but this didn't happen. So apparently the sheriff, who is friends with Sheriff Dave Ackerman, there was a sheriff in McIntosh County named Lori Spitzer who called off the plowing that day. And she's friends with Sheriff Dave Ackerman. And so she, in my opinion, she should be removed immediately. She endangered my life and the life of that other guy. I don't even know if he survived. Okay, and so once again, she's friends with Sheriff Dave Ackerman. So I've had a lot of very strange issues with this sheriff, and that's why we are very deeply concerned about trying to get him recalled. We've been trying to get him recalled. We filed a petition. We have sent stuff into the Attorney General. So we're just trying to get things looked into properly in the DC, in the national level now, because so anyway, apparently there's very, very major issues going on in South Dakota that a lot of people were not aware of, and so some areas are extremely dangerous. So I know a lot of people have gone to South Dakota for hunting and would not have known about any of these issues that are there. And there's some very, very dangerous areas there that people need to know about. And that's what I'm trying to point out. I had no idea. So I just want to close this video with a Bible scripture, because there's so much like people saying, there's different people that have made stupid comments on my videos and other people's videos that are just trying to put out the truth. And so I just want to read a scripture, because people are just so quick to like belittle people or say something demeaning, without even knowing all of the information. And so I want to read this scripture. It's from Ephesians 4. Walk in the manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love. Okay, so to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Okay, so I just wanted to read that because, we're supposed to walk humility and gentleness, patience, kindness. People are just so quick to come to judgments and belittle people and put people down. I mean, I've had all these, bizarre comments. And then, and then the other thing that happened is that my other video where I had that interview with Abel Dangerfield McConnell, I had a lot of nasty comments about my interview on there, and I didn't, I was only on for like 10 minutes, and I didn't even say that much, and I had all these bizarre comments, like, well, you should have listened more to what he had to say, or you should have just answered his questions. I'm sorry, but when you have somebody on a show, it's an interview, and he acted like it was an interrogation, asking me to say yes or no questions. That's an interrogation, that's not an interview. So, I didn't know what was going on with him, but apparently he's been arrested, and apparently it has to do with some felony charges in Florida, and I think it has to do with I think he's being audited, the books and everything, because they're not, I don't really know exactly what it's involving, but I believe the organization is being audited, the Crusade. So I was trying to, I'm just used as a vessel, I feel, for truth. I was just picking up that something wasn't right there. And apparently, I was right. Something was not right with him. So, if anybody questions anything I'm saying, I have all the evidence of different things, and I put links up to everything I'm putting out. And and anything that you don't believe that I'm saying in South Dakota, um, I have Lora Hubbel, and that I'll link this video. She will back me up in everything I'm saying about South Dakota. So if anybody has any question of anything that I'm saying in these videos, I'll put the links, and you can also reach out to Lora Hubbel, and she'll confirm. So anyway, this is the video for today. It's a little bit longer, but there was several things to touch on. Okay, have a good day.